times that impacted area. You didn't have to set up your production equipment in the forest. Everything must come out of the forest. So there were some stringent processes there. I think what we spoke about was that instead of we just using policy guidelines, let's put it in an airline so that it will become, you can try against it. Government comes against their own promise of nobody should be allowed to work in the forest area. Says that now you can go through LI 2462, you can go through the forest. In fact, you don't even need forest entry permit. The forest entry permit was a good thing, even though it was abused by an individual who went there, because the forest entry permit had been there, and there were, in fact, before, in the time that I was there, before you got a forest entry permit from the Forestry Commission, it was wahala. My friend Afari would just have a battle with you before, if they found it very useful, they would grant that. You will recall that, and in Professor Frimpong Boateng's report, that there was a point when we had to withdraw the license of one operator. I think that was where Major Mahama's incident occurred. We had to write to withdraw his license because he had a permit to do exploration, but he had started mining, which was against the law. And this is why I find it difficult to understand why President Akufo-Addo would say that Akonta mining was not doing anything illegal. Akonta mining, the Minerals Commission and the ministry have just said he has the exploration license, but not the production license. He hasn't got the license to mine. Yet he was mining, but yes, he was not illegal. And this pronouncement would
Citizen TV, the citizen's power. 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 Citizen TV, the citizen's power.
For yourself. So these things are the creation of government, lack of leadership, the absence of clear leadership in trying to fight a menace. The challenge is also of employment. People who do not, I mean, if I completed the nursing training school, and then it takes me 4 years before I get posted to a hospital. If I were a man with the muscle of mine, and I came from a place where, or even if I didn't come from that place, I could travel to a place where you can just go start digging and making money, I will go. So when you do a survey of people who are involved, there are quite a number of educated people, some with master's degree, some with all kinds of degrees, and they are there because they don't have the other option. They don't have those even who have gone to do professional things like nursing, like teaching, they have to wait. And that wait period, what should they do? Their parents have supported them, and after 4 years, they should still be supported. So I think we need a comprehensive approach. And a comprehensive approach would require much less human intervention. And that's what President Mahama is proposing. That when he comes, he will recategorize mining. In fact, mining is the only activity. As always, we see SME, small, medium, and whatever. And mining, we have SL, small scale and large scale. But if you go to the field, you see that some of the operators there are not small scale. There can't be any small scale miner who can buy excavators. One excavator, a new one, or even a used one, will be not less than $300,000. I don't see how any community small member will be able to buy that. So, and then you could see the extent of the impact of land, the space he has. You can only see it as a medium scale. If you cannot compare it to, let's say, Anglo Gold Ashanti or Newmont or Goldfields, you can see it as a medium scale. So we are going to recategorize the scales of mining. And the reason for this categorization is that it makes it possible for the institutions to manage them. We are able to better control or regulate the large-scale mines, because in Ghana we have only 16. We have only 16 large-scale mines. So if something happened where there's somebody could go there, a ministry or a minerals commission person could go there. But we have dotted small-scale mines in this country. In fact, in my own western region, our study indicates about 7,000 spots of mining, 7,000. So how can Minerals Commission even visit 7,000 sites? So once you recategorize, you can get about 30 of the medium scale ones, and then you set out special requirement. Every medium scale mine must show that he has a geologist, must employ a geologist, must employ a mining engineer, an environmental person, in addition to his own administration, because it must be done as if it were a big scale, cut down to small scale. That will be a requirement, and we don't lack these technical people. UMAT, University of Mines and Technology in Takwa, produces a lot of these technicians. We have KNUST. You have the University of the Northern University, UDS. You have the Sunyani University, UNE, this University of Environment and Natural Resources. They all produce mining experts, so they can be employed there to support them. And then after that, you use technology also to ensure that the equipment that are given, they are geofenced in a space where they cannot move, and we've tested that. You can have technology where the excavator that really causes the major challenge cannot move from outside the concession that has been given you. So they can't go to places that they have not been granted. If they did, it will be seen from far away.
Look, you have to wrap up for me.
So I think the failure has been failure of leadership. It's quite clear. There have been flip-flopping promises, and then their own people leading the charge. If my constituency chairman, let's say, is a galamsey, how can I stop the constituency chairman? So if your regional chairman is into it, how can you not make law to support him? And that is where we are now. And I think it is not, the fight is difficult, but it is not impossible.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Doc. Dr. Tony Obing is a spokesperson for the NDC when it comes to mining issues. Let me do a couple of comments you're sending to us via Facebook. Komalan Ganya says, any Ghanaian who is still thinking of voting for these people, in spite of the way they have destroyed our waters and messed up our economy, then that person does not love this country. He doesn't care about the future of their children. Real Ghana is also joining us, saying good morning. Sena, this is okay. I think he's talking about the SEC. He says this is unacceptable EC. These political parties, apart from NDC, MPP, PNC, and CPP, the rest are non-existent and should not be recognized and considered a political party. Prohibit all these mushrooming parties and individuals with no nationwide representation to be stopped immediately. In fact, this week, the Daily Graphic actually reported that 39 persons are interested in contesting for the presidency. Yusuf Mohammed is also joining us. He says, okay, you see, Sena, not only Galamsey, MPP has lost the battle in fighting anything that destroys the country. From their conduct, one should be able to say they never seek power to serve the people. This government must be kicked out of office in the upcoming elections. Francis Gordon says, what sense does it make when we destroy the whole systemic ecological situation of the land with illegal mining for money and later not getting food and water to sustain life? Illegal mining activities is a threat to our very existence. Thank you very much for that comment. Bedu Kwame says, we know that it's the government and his entourage that's behind the Galamsey. What next? There's Raslos, Sena. Okay, Raslos, good morning to you. Thank you very much. These are some of the comments that we're getting from you who are joining us on Facebook. Keep those comments coming. I'll read some more as we go along in the show. Let's take Ajo's thought. Ajo.
Good morning to you and your viewers, Sena. But before I start, let me quickly say good morning to a couple of people. The young lady who did my makeup this morning, her name is Karen Jam Glam on TikTok. So on TikTok, I'm a bit known. So I got Karen to come and do my makeup for me. Please patronize her and check her out on TikTok. She's very young, but hardworking, dedicated, and she's time conscious. She was at my gate at the exact time that I gave her. So please follow her on TikTok and then patronize her. Again, from here, I will be attending a program at Bauleche. The NDC has opened a manifesto help desk. So you know, after our manifesto launch, we have done sectorial press briefings, and now we have added help desk to it. We are beginning around Bauleche, where we'll put up a desk. They are there as we speak now, and I'll be going there from here. So people who have questions concerning our manifesto, whether it's about the youth manifesto or the general manifesto or the main manifesto, you can go there and ask questions, because we understand that it is not everybody who will watch television or listen to the radio or follow some of these things, but these policies are made for the people. So we are trying to reach out to the local people and the general people around in our neighborhoods so that we can explain the policies to them. And this initiative is led by Mr. Shafiq Mohammed. So I'll be going there. That said, on the issue of Galamsey, for me as a young person, it is very worrying for me. And as my co-panelists have already, explained, when we talk about Galamsey, it didn't just start from today. And I disagree completely with the arguments that when we talk about Galamsey, we should put a nationalistic, I understand that we should put a nationalistic face to it, but when we say that we should try to discuss it without party politics or partisan politics, I do not agree with that assertion. Why do I say that? Because when the president, before he became president, stood on a stage and told Ghanaians that I am going to protect Ghana, when he said that he was going to put his presidency on the line to fight Galamsey, he did not say that as a dancehall artist. He wasn't a reggae artist when he said that. He was a politician. And so if we say that, oh, we shouldn't put politics into the whole discussion, people have come to have power to do certain things through politics. It is because of party politics that we have elected certain people and given them certain powers which they have decided to use against us. And so we cannot say that, we cannot pretend and try to say that because we want to be nice, we shouldn't put politics in the whole discussion. We must point it, we must call a spade a spade. And then we have pointed out that we understand that Galamsey did not start from today, and my co-panelist has explained and differentiated between what Galamsey is and small-scale mining is. And from time immemorial, even colonial days, we had people try to mine illegally, and that has been, seen in our legal framework from historical times. laws that has been promulgated in an attempt to stop people from plundering our environment. And so we have seen certain ordinances that were passed by even the colonial governments to try to stop the plundering of these state resources. And so you have to be part of a big organization or a bigger company to be able to mine properly. Until the PNDC law 153 came into place, that was somewhere in the 1986. That is when people, the local people, were allowed, like mining in this country was liberalized a bit for us to partake in it. So from that time, we have been interested in making sure that the local citizen also has a share in the resources of this country, and not just in gold mining, even in petroleum and other ways. That is why we have the local content laws, making sure that even all Ghanaians or Ghanaians who are interested in such fields will benefit. This has not come, you know, without any challenges. We all see the challenges that has come with it, and we've tried from time to time, government to promulgate laws to be able to regulate some of these activities, knowing that if we do not regulate such activities, we are endangering ourselves. Now, the laws have come forward to see the promulgation of the PNDC Law 218, which was supposed to help regularize small-scale mining, because at the time, even though the law had been liberalized, you could not engage in small-scale mining. It was still illegal. So for us to be able to protect our environment, the government saw that we needed to enact, Parliament saw that we needed to enact a law to be able to regularize small-scale mining, so that the local people who will want to engage or partake in mining of the resources of the country can do so well without putting all of us in danger. In 2006, we consolidated all these laws, and then we saw the Minerals and Mining Act, Act 703, which was later amended to the Act 900 and Act 995 in 2015 and 2019 respectively. These laws were supposed to do specific things. They created specific offenses for people who flouted the laws that governed mining. And then it wasn't perfect, but we still had these laws that were regulating that sector. So you couldn't go into these areas that you wanted to mine without the proper license. And the terms and conditions were properly outlined in the law to tell everyone what you needed to be granted a license, and how your license will be revoked should you flout any of the laws. You know, this law provided for many things, you know, among these things that I have mentioned. Fast forward, His Excellency Nana Addo comes into power, and he says that he'll put his presidency on the line to fight. And I always say, as it's in the nature of the NPP, to always, you know, pretend to fight a problem. And we have seen it in other areas when it comes to even the issue of corruption and how the Special Prosecutor's Office was set up. And in the end, the very person that was put there to help fight corruption was chased out because he was trying to do his job. It is in that same way that this Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, to my mind, was set up. So, because tell me why an interministerial committee for illegal mining will be set up. They operate for 3 years, and for these 3 years that they operated, the record shows that about $30 million was allocated to them quarterly, and about 10 million Ghana cedis was used on Galamsey dialogue. To dialogue on Galamsey, they used 10 million Ghana cedis. So besides the plundering of our environment, there is also the monetary aspect, where they have not even been able to account for all the money that has gone into this so-called Interministerial Committee for Illegal Mining. And I often say, it is as though to survive in the NPP, you must have some sort of corruption history or criminal history. If not, then you must be able to bend over backwards. You must be very malleable, because we have seen how they dealt with Professor Frimpong Boateng in his attempts to try to solve a problem which they themselves put him to do. So they set up this committee at a couple of ministries, Minerals Commission, Lands, Ministry for Lands. They put the local government, chieftaincy, religious affairs, and they put all these people together, create a secretariat, and then pump money into that place, and then what's the reason for which this thing is set up, we even become worse off. And so we have people who are, you see, the problem is, even if there were no other people mining and the government is not able to get hold of them to control the situation, that is a different matter. Here we are being told that we have people with whom we have entrusted ourselves, our nation, our resources. They have turned around to so to me it is the betrayal. As a young person, it is the betrayal for me. And so you are on our water bodies and our river banks mining, exposing us to mercury. And you see the records and the research shows that these mining areas, actually you see people with what's that kind of ulcer, Burley ulcer, and then mothers are giving birth to deformed children. And so you see, that is why I often say that as a young person, if you're watching me today, you must be interested in the politics of this country. You must be interested in everything that is happening in this country. Because why? As we sit here, my generation, we are at risk of giving birth to babies with defects. As I sit here, we are at risk. The more we are drinking the water, and even if we say we will not drink the water, we are going to drink imported water. We cannot live in this country without eating bananas, oranges. We cannot live here without eating the plantain and the cassava. And this contaminated water is being used to water these crops. And so no matter what you do, you will not escape. And one of my seniors said something. He said, just like pollution is local, but its impact is global. And so you may sit at home and say that I do not want to be interested in the politics of the country, or whatever they do does not concern me, but we are being poisoned. It is one thing if you just drink and die. I think it is easier. But where you are going to give birth to children with defects, without limbs, without, some parts, without genitalia, and then that brings about, compounds your economic problem that we are already facing. I think that is very problematic. It is why we need to keep talking about such issues. Now, you have set up an interministerial committee on illegal mining. You call Professor Frimpong Boateng. According to him, it was the chief of staff who asked him to put together a report on the work that they have done. The report is an indictment on this government. And I keep asking myself, in part of the report, we are being told that the president issued a directive that some licenses should be revoked and new licenses shouldn't be given for people to enter into the forest reserve. And some people argue that it is the LI 2462 that has allowed people to enter our forest reserve. But the report is also telling us that as of 2018, and that is way before the passing of the LI was passed in 2022. But in 2018, the report is telling us that about 47 forest reserves had already been given out for illegal mining purposes. It has already been given out. And then is the president telling us that he was so powerless that he could give a directive that were flouted by his own appointees, because his own appointees were in this forest. This tells me that even the president is complicit in this matter. And what I cannot even understand is the fact that as this report was prepared and given to the president, who is supposed to be a human rights lawyer, he sat on the reports and did not bring it out until the report was leaked. This is the kind of man we have as president, the person who is supposed to protect human rights. Because, like I always say, this is tantamount to human rights abuse. You cannot say that just because you want to mine some resources and make money out of it, then you put other people's lives and health at risk. You understand me? And so for a person who is supposed to be the father of the nation, after seeing a report like this, I mean, you ought not to sit on it. You are supposed to do something about it. Could it be that the president himself is complicit in this whole mining issue that we are having in this country, that he could not even be firm in his fights, in his so-called fights against Galamsey? I say that this government, since it came, like one of our our viewers rightly sent to you, they have lost the battle in all fronts. And we cannot say that we will discuss this matter without bringing in politics, because since the time of Nkrumah, we have seen how our river bodies looked like. In fact, when His Excellency John Dramani Mahama left power in 2016, we still saw how the River Pra looked like. We can measure the turbidity of the water. Everybody have fought, but we are saying that in this current government, the destruction of our water bodies, the destruction of our environment has reached its peak and its highest apogee. And that is why we are calling this government out. And so we must name them and shame them. We cannot say all governments. We have to say the NPP governments led by His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo and Dr. Baobia. They have made us worse and put our life at risk. Today, there are many diseases. And even what pains me is that they are not even able to even strengthen the health sector, to even take care of the people they are making sick. You get it? And so everything, we are the mercy of, you know, these people just destroying us. Now, as lawyer rightly said, when we talk about Galamsey, they try to bring the NDC in and say that, oh, there's even a video of Mr. Kwaku Boahen telling Galamseyers that when the NDC comes to power, we are going to... What they refuse to tell the people is that before the NPP came into power, there were people who were mining legally. And like they have distinguished, there's a difference between galamseyers and small-scale miners who were properly trained and regularized on how to mine properly and how to even reclaim some part of the soil. So there were people who were properly licensed and properly mining. When you came, you realized that you wanted to put your own people into the mining sector because part in Yesika, what you did was to pretend to have placed a ban, a 1-year ban on mining, and then you sent all these people home. And then you took their licenses and their concessions and gave it to your people who do not have training. And that is how come we are having our water bodies as turbid as we have it now. And so if Mr. Kwaku Boahen goes to these people who are not galamseyers but small-scale miners and tell them that you need to vote for us because we regulated the sector better, you come to us and tell us that Mr. Kwaku Boahen was telling them that we will allow them to engage in galamsey. That is not true. Those were small-scale miners whose licenses and concessions had been taken away from them unfairly. And he was speaking to them that if the NDC comes into power, we were going to look at these concessions again. So when it comes to the issue of galamsey, they should not drag the NDC into this whole conversation. They should just agree and admit that they have failed the fight again. In fact, they weren't fighting because they will be fighting against themselves. They themselves have turned around to plunder the environments that we entrusted into them, and they pretended to be fighting. They have lost the fight against themselves when it comes to galamsey. Now, when it comes to issues of galamsey, the only way we can bring His Excellency John Dramani Mahama into the conversation, as rightly said, is what we are coming to do for the environment. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, in his manifesto, have stated that when he is voted into power come 2025, he is going to put together what we call the Gold Board. The Gold Board is going to help the other ministries that are already in this sector to regulate this small-scale mining and then continue to teach them how to reclaim the lands even after mining. Also, he has said that he will put together the Blue Water Initiative and the Tree for Life Initiative. And by this, it means that we are going to plant some trees, specific trees. That is, he mentioned the rubber tree and then the cotton tree. Why are we going to use the rubber and cotton? We are using this rubber and cotton tree because these trees are able to help reclaim the land. They are able to take up toxins from the soil. And with my little knowledge in agriculture and science, like from the basic level, we know that to be able to reclaim a land and be able to take out toxins such as lead and all this mercury from the land, it is best to do it with plants. And we will usually use local or indigenous crops, or crops that are indigenous around that area. In some areas, they use the fern and other eucalyptus and other types of plants. And so His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is saying that he's going to liaise with the necessary technical people who will be able to help us reclaim these lands through these plants. And we also know that the rubber tree and the cotton tree, they have what we call the kind of tap root that is able to anchor into the soil horizon, allows the plants to drain out all these toxins from the soil. We're going to engage in other things that will be able to help us clean our water, regularize mining, and make it proper so that the local people can benefit from it, but not to the detriment of our environment. This is what we are going to do in the mining sector.
Thank you. Thank you. It's funny how your beautiful smile vanishes immediately you start talking about Nanado. We will come to Dr. David Percy shortly to conclude that discussion for us. But before that, a couple of comments that have been shared with us. If you're just joining us, the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji, we thank you very much for your time. We are live from the studios of Pan-African Television. This is the Alhaji for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah Studios. And we are live on the Pan-African Television. We are also live on Facebook, Pan-African Television, YouTube, Pan-African Television. We are live on radio and Radio Gold, many other affiliate stations across the country. A few comments you're sending to us. Let me start with Kojo Chomboafo, who says, why are we surprised that Akufo-Addo has lost the battle to fight Galamsey? Wound to me. The Ashanti Regional Chairman, Kate Jemfua, the women's organizer of the MPP, former environment minister, and his son, among others in the hierarchy of the ruling party, are all engaging in Galamsey. Also allegedly mentioned at the former general secretary of the MPP, John Boyd, MPP parliamentary candidate for Joabing Sampine, the MC of Kumasi, and a whole gamut of other top MPP officials. How do you collapse this unbelievable melee when the main actors all sit in cabinet? My thoughts on this matter is all mining activities must be banned for a while until the forests and rivers recover. Nature will respond and restore, but we need to stop the mining activities because the criminals who will mine will always cross the line. Clearly, as far as the current government is concerned, Party Nyansika is more important than good governance. Thank you very much for that comment. Musa Abatwa says, Sena, the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government's supposed commitment to fighting Galamsey nothing but lip service. It's glaringly evident that some MPP kingpins are deeply involved in this illicit activity, making the government's efforts a complete sham. From the MPP women's organizers to the Ashanti Regional Chairman, the Menfi East parliamentary candidate, and even the Western Regional Minister, key figures within the MPP are repeatedly found engaging in or linked to illegal mining. This government has lost all credibility in attacking Galamsey as their actions clearly contradict their words. Thank you, Musa Abatwa, for that. Let me see if I can do a few more before I go to Doc. This one is for Papa Bisiu in Accra. Says, okay, all names associated with Galamsey are seeking our votes and therefore going around sharing cash from that illegal gain, like Horace Ekwewusi in Central Region and others, resulting in deaths and dangerous diseases like kidney failure from contaminated waters for our brothers, sisters, and children must be voted against in the coming general elections. And that's the interesting part, that some of the names that are mentioned are actually parliamentary candidates who are campaigning for votes. Question is, what will happen to them? That's the question every Ghanaian has to answer. There's also Alhaji Amsa in Pig Farm who says, good morning. To be told, President Nana Addo has failed the good people of this country big time. This was a president who told us that he was ready to put his presidency on the line in the fight against Galamsey. And it is the same president who sent to Parliament LI 2462 to be passed to allow mining to go on in our forest reserves. Let's get this right. In the first place, there was nothing like fighting Galamsey in this country. And when we complain, the majority chief whip, who comes out to tell us that the NDC even polluted the waters more than them, is so irresponsible and shameful on his part. My brother, in all this, Mr. President has decided to remain quiet without saying anything to the nation. God have mercy. I just wanted to quickly go back to the Fourth Estate report and just read to you briefly some of the things they said about the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party. It says, months before the government scrapped the guidelines that limited mining in forest reserves, in November 2022, Akonta Mining Company Limited was actively felling trees and digging in the Tano Nimri Forest Reserve. And the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources declared the company's operation illegal. The Office of the Special Prosecutor is currently investigating allegations of illegal mining against the company. According to records at the ORC, The company has two shareholders, Bernard Bosi Akoda, Ashanti Regional Chairman of the MPP, who is popularly known as Chairman Wuntumi, and one Kwame Entry. Akonta Mining, which was registered in 2010 for mining and exploration, applied to mine in the town of Nimri Forest, where it is already accused of mining illegally on August 25, 2022. This was just a month after LI 2462 was gazetted. The Mineral Commission has forwarded the company's application to the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources for possible approval. Without the regulatory permits, the company mined with impunity until investigations by Joint Uses Erastus Saridonko exposed the destructive activities in the reserve. According to the Minerals Commission's data, Chairman Wuntumi currently has two other mining leases in the Amenfi district. Apart from Akonta Mining, Wuntumi also has a 50% shareholding in another company. Is it Akos Jumo Mining Limited, which has several mining and prospective leases in the Minerals Commission database. Doc.
Thank you very much, Sena. I think the recent report about difficulties that the Ghana Water Company was having with extracting water for treatment for use has set us about what we do very well, which is to talk a lot and go around in circles and do practically very little. Maybe the issue of water has brought this thing up because we know from what the scientists tell us that slowly but surely we are poisoning ourselves. I mean, from the vegetables, from the fish, the food that we eat, the water that we drink. And this is because of a failure of governance in a key sector. Okay. But I like to situate this thing in the broader context of land use and its management. And by land, I'm talking about the soil, the subsoil, the waters, the air, the flora, the fauna, plants and animals, which are essential to the existence and survival of our species. And it is at the heart of every economy, land. But what you see here is that starting from the resistance to the local government reforms that Nkrumah and the CPP introduced, this was before independence, there has been fierce resistance, and practically every regime, every party seeking power has failed to address the land issue. Now, the problems we see in relation to water have their roots in this absence of a comprehensive approach to this key resource without which we cannot exist. It affects, the instant issue is water, but agriculture, housing, industry. I mean, it is not possible to engage in any economic activity without land. Yet, that sector has suffered from a, you might say, a lack of attention. And regime after regime after regime ignores it. So we dance around the issue, it blows up in this area, and then we go about firefighting. When what is really required is a comprehensive approach to the issue of land. Now, if we address it this way, then we'll find out that there are all kinds of interests around the issue, stakeholders, call them. Now, what is required is, first of all, an understanding of the location of this key resource in our lives, and then the involvement of all the stakeholders in fashioning out arrangements that work for us in a manner that is sustainable, that does not lead to imbalances, that does not poison us. Okay, now if you look at even the sectors, I mean the ministries, you find out that I'm sure there's an element that is covered by the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, right? Yes. There's an area covered by the Ministry of Agriculture. There's land and natural resources. Housing, works and housing, okay. Transport. I mean, but it's such is the far-reaching importance of this key resource, without which we cannot exist, that the inattention is just mind-boggling. Okay. Now, in the 50s, the CPP's decision to to bring about local government reforms touching on land, okay, fused with the failure of the CPP to implement a promise that they had made before the 1954 elections to raise cocoa prices. And that led to agitation that, Nkrumah and the CPP wanted to take over people's land. And that led very directly to the founding of the NLM. Okay. Of course, the NLM will eventually lead to the overthrow of Nkrumah. But it appears that the eternal lesson that has been learned from that, those developments in our history, is that land is discussed but never addressed. I have personally been in many fora where it has come up. For instance, land and the issues about its insecurity is a principal barrier to the development of agriculture. It's a principal barrier to the development of small businesses. Is the reason why you have a lot of slum development, slum formation. Yet, we continue to dance around it. You may even find people who ought to know better saying that, we don't have a land problem. Land, there's plenty of land. But if I were to give you a piece of land for say half a year or even a year, will you invest in building a well on it so that you can hold water and use it in relation to the needs of your crop? No. So, for instance, one of the monumental displays of this collective incompetence was captured in this policy of one village, one dam. Now, if farmers had security of tenure, if they could use land for a certain period, determined, secure, okay, they would invest in measures, in facilities to hold water. Okay, I'm sure that from this week on, people will be talking a bit more about the recent announcement about, or is it announcement, observation that we have drought.
Yes.
And that there's a looming issue of food shortages. Okay. Now, governments in the past have tried to go around this issue with the development of large-scale irrigation projects, but which are only underused because usually they are confined to dry season farming. But really, the solution that is required should enable farmers where they are to conserve and use water for their agricultural needs. I mean, this is something that's hiding in plain sight. But consistently, we go around in circles, we skirt the issue, and we invest a lot of time and capital in solutions that are bound to fail. So I'll say that, look, we didn't intend it, but this crisis offers us an opportunity to, as it were, go back to the basics and address the matter of land in all its aspects. I mean, you can't have an economy without land. Yet, it's I mean, the laws, etc. It's mind-boggling, and we cannot continue in this on this path. Those are my thoughts on this matter now.
Doc, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, Dr. David Percy, a student of history and politics. Now, within the context of the fact that cocoa farms are fighting with galamsees, you will understand why he's raising the matter of land issue. It's a big issue, frankly, because this week, one of the videos that have trended is a man who was gleefully cutting a cocoa tree, and they had a camera on him. It's been trending on social media. And the comments he was making suggest that we'll tell you, we'll justify what Dr. Percy is saying. The land is theirs. It's not for government to tell them what to use the land for. Cocoa trees are going down for not only cocoa trees, rubber trees have gone. There are many farmlands that have gone in the place of galamsey. So galamsey takes over, everybody gives out their land, or even the farmer clears his land and becomes a miner. So these are issues that we need to discuss a bit more comprehensively to find solutions to it. Ghana Water Company Limited and also on our environment. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll turn to what is ahead of us, the elections.
He has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.
To the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. Of course, we are live from the Alhaji for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah studios of Pan African Television. Before we start talking about the register, a few more things, comments that came up on this issue of Galamsey. This is Dennis Yakwete, who says the complicity of the political class is the reason the Galamsey mess continues to subsist with the current momentum. I just can't figure it. How those monstrous machines used for the said exercise are so obvious for even Sebi, the blind, to see. And yet our authorities mandated to check this are helpless. For the EC, it is not only ridiculous to even contemplate that the likes of Jean Mensah once headed the IEA and did not only take on the previous EC but also agitated for electoral reforms will be in charge of EC today and will be reluctant to yield to sensible demands to make the EC transparent and accountable to ensure free and fair elections. It is just a matter of time. That's Dennis Yakwete. Thank you very much for that comment. Okay. There's Tafina Meo says, Sena, Galamsey has defeated this government. Finito. That's the only comment he sends. Azure says, okay. Imoro Abdullahi from Bongo says, good morning to you and your panelists, especially to Dr. Tony Obing. Let's give President Nanado a platform on this Galamsey matter, and I can assure you that he will make statements and pronouncements that will undermine any investigation. Thank you. There's also this one that's coming from Stephen Penn in Wa, who says Nanado has lost the fight against Galamsey because his top government officials, party members and financiers are all engaged in the Galamsey menace, like the Mexican government is finding it difficult to fight the drug menace. Nanado put his presidency on the line and should have resigned by now because he has lost the fight miserably. Nanado, please respect the constitution and do the needful. Resign now. Stephen, thank you for that comment. And then there's also, okay. Let us also remember that Akufo-Addo said in opposition, he who wants to provide jobs for his youth is not going to ban Galamsey. That NDC was lying against him, so he's doing just what he meant. That putting his presidency on the line is just another deception. Komala Genya, thank you. And finally, this is Edie Gideon Montari, who says, my regards to your respected panelists, whenever one is chewing the fingers of a monkey, must take a second look at his own again. Whatever goes around comes around. This government is just an audio one with full of empty rhetorics, negativity, and all manner of possibilities. As such, all well-meaning Ghanaians must join hands with the NDC calling for a forensic audit of the voters registered by the EC going into this year's general elections on December 7. It will take our collective efforts to recapture, reset, rebuild, and transform the Ghana we all wanted it. Ghana is at the crossroads. I'll start the register matter with Ajua. The voters register. The NDC is asking for a forensic audit of the register. The EC says no, you will not get that. But clearly, the EC at a press conference admits there are issues that need to be resolved. Ajua, you have 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yes.
When it comes to the issue of the EC, I think I can speak on this matter for a very long time. Why? Because it bothers me. It bothers me a lot. Sena, I think that it is not for nothing that we say that Ghana is a beacon of democracy in this Africa that we are. It is because we have been able to manage power transition from one government to the other. And this transition of power has been midwifed by a very important institution, that is the EC. And so when we talk about the politics of this country, when we talk about the democracy of this country, we cannot exhaust the topic without, you know, explaining or outlining the critical role that the Electoral Commission plays in this whole thing. And so it is important that that office is manned by a person who is empathetic, a person who is critical and ethical and very competent and have the will, is willing to do the right thing, because I believe that the least mistake and such a person can throw the entire country into chaos. And because I am a woman also, it bothers me, because whenever there is civil unrest or a war, I mean, children are most affected, followed by women. And for the men, they can run and they can fight, but then what about us? And so when we see an EC that seems to not take certain things into consideration when taking certain decisions, and when we talk about them, it is seen as if we are trying to bastardize the institution. It's painful. Nobody has tried to bastardize the EC, although it has engaged in many things that ordinarily, you know, we shouldn't countenance such in our body politics. But we have been very understanding and accommodating of this particular EC. She's not the first to have, you know, sat in this office. We've had the likes of Mr. Afarijan, Dr. Afarijan, who have overseen, like, you know, many elections before now. Madame Charlotte Osei, who did an excellent job, whose, you know, way of being pushed out of office is still questionable on my mind. And how Madame Jane Mensah was appointed by this government. In the midst of all these, okay, we still see the EC acting in ways that are very questionable. And then whenever you want to talk about this issue, we do not have the PRO of the EC. I don't know if they have a PRO, but we have the governing party always speaking for the EC. And the EC is supposed to be the referee of this election. And so if I am going into a competition with you, and then we are all stakeholders in this election, I see problems with the way the referee is conducting herself, but you see nothing wrong with it. And so besides the EC telling us that although she has 24-hour surveillance, we still managed to get some BVDs to vanish from EC's custody is problematic, and suddenly they are finding them. The EC's way of making sure that the people of SAO, okay, are disenfranchised is problematic, and we are still looking at what she's going to do about that. Beyond that, there have been many other things that has happened. The recent one is this provisional voters register, the PVR that the NDC had requested for. And then the EC wrote to the NDC to bring some gadgets for the PVR to be handed over, to be given to us. According to Dr. Omane Boama, who is the Director for Elections, we submitted this gadget. The PVR was not given to us. In fact, the PVR was not given to us until, I think, a day to exhibition, which was contrary to their own CI 91. You know, so they were supposed to give us their PVR. And you see, sometimes we say that when we complain about the fact that you're conflicted and you're trying to rig election, sometimes it is not that you have done it per se, but the way you have conducted yourself has created that impression. And sometimes that impression or perception is more dangerous than even the acts occurring itself. And so you are aware of the daunting tax that is on various political parties. We are looking at about 38,000 polling stations distributing these PVRs, and we have to go through the register to be sure that, you know, we are satisfied with the register. And as a major stakeholder that we are, the NDC, we deserve to have this register to look through so that there is peace. But the EC refused to do that, and we literally have to drag the EC by the foot before we are given this PVR. Then we discover that there are a lot of mistakes in this register. We are seeing dead people in the register. We are seeing illegal votes transfer. And initially, when we raised this issue, the NPP said they had not seen anything. The other political parties have not seen anything, and they kept defending the EC. Now, EC has no, you know, she has no option than to admit that there are mistakes in the voters register after the indictment of the Pusiga EC director. Now, we all see that the issues that are being raised by the NDC are actually genuine, and there are problems with this voters register. And when we talk about elections, everybody talks about we want peace, we want peace, we want peace. And I've heard a few people rightly state that there can never be peace without justice. If we want peace, there are things that we need to put in place to bring peace. If I want to eat banku, I know I have to add cassava dough to corn dough, put it on fire and stir it. That is how I will get banku. You do not peel plantain and put on fire and say you want to get banku. It doesn't work like that. And so if we want peace, there is a recipe that we need to stick by. That is ensuring that all stakeholders are satisfied to a large degree, that the election that we're about to conduct is free and fair. And so all we are saying is that based on this indictment of the Pusiga EC director, it is evidence that there are mistakes in the PVR. We need to sit with EC. We need to conduct a forensic audit into the register so that all major stakeholders are satisfied that this election is going to be free and fair. We have said that. We know what we did when we came into power. And the NPP has also they've also had the opportunity to be in power for 8 years, so we all, so together 16 we can compare the records. We know that we have performed better. We know that the people of Ghana are yearning for change, and so it is our duty to ensure that the will of the people are not subverted through some dubious means or some collusions that we are thinking is between the government, the certain government and the EC. So if the EC is saying that she's credible or whatever work she's doing is what it is, then I don't see any problem in asking for a forensic audit into the register. That is all we want to see, because we are determined to ensure that the votes of the people are protected and the will of the people come to a fruition on December 7th, 2025.
Thank you very much. A few comments on Facebook. This one, Kofi Simon says, Kwesi Pratt said years ago on this platform that Galamsey must be stopped entirely, but who will listen to him? Here we are now. Our chiefs are behind these things that are going on. There's also Nipenya. Okay, this is to lawyer Pierre Dankwa. Says your submission are always on point. I don't understand why you didn't join the NDC, as you are the only member of the Movement for Change who consistently provides constructive input without attacking the NDC. You always focus on the issues at hand. Lawyer, I can invite to you.
I do. The last time I met Adjoa, I attacked the NDC, and Adjoa came after me. But what, like I always say, for me, it's not about the party; it's about Ghana, and that will continue to be my focus. See, the issue about the EC for me is the same issue like Galamsey. Lack of leadership, lack of commitment, a clear. You see, our country has been taken over by charlatans. They have no principle, they have no value. They've placed the interest, their personal interest, the interest of their political parties ahead of the country's interest. And it's the same attitude that, the same attitude that is plaguing our environment, the same attitude is also plaguing our political space. Because per the terms of our constitution, it is a duty of the president to appoint members onto the EC. You understand? And when the president is making those appointments, he ought to be guided, or the burden on him is a burden that was born out of the oath himself he took to be faithful to Ghana. And so when you have respect and you are faithful, or you have some level of fidelity to that burden, then you won't undermine or create a situation by appointment which makes it practically impossible for the EC to fulfill her terms, her job, by appointing people who are perceived to be or to have political coloring, not necessarily being MPP. If you appoint anybody who has political coloring, then what you are doing is that you are creating a situation where it is practically impossible for the EC to fulfill its mandate. What was the mandate? That mandate is not only to deliver an election which is free and fair, but also to deliver an election which is perceived to be free and fair. But right now, charlatans have taken over. Take the New Patriotic Party. Charlatans have taken over. Now we have people who don't even believe in the ideals and values of the NPP. And they are in the NPP, they don't believe in those ideals. They've managed to get a chance to lead. And they are delivering a governance which is adverse not only to Ghana, but adverse to the purpose for which the NPP themselves were formed. So let me give you just some few examples. When you take the MP's constitution, go to article, what's it called? Article, the aims and objectives, article 2:11, on the issue of galamsey. They are saying that one of their aims and objectives for why they formed as a political party is to try and win power to do what? To protect the environment from degradation and repair the damage done to the environment by wasteful and improper exploitation of our land, forest, marine and freshwater resource. That's what they said. And so when they're deciding as to who to sponsor to take power, they should be guided by this principle. But right now the party is full by charlatans. No respect for values. They don't even know why they are there. Also, when you take the constitution, go to the same purpose, 28. It says to develop and maintain close fraternal relations with all political parties in West Africa and the world at large, which share the liberal democratic ideals of the party. What are those liberal democratic ideals? A firm belief that those who govern must do the same with the consent of those they govern. And elections is the main thing which we show our consent. You know, I was talking about social contracts in the first place. When you are entering into any contract, one key element is consent. You understand? So when we sign that social contract with our government, we give our consent when we vote. You understand? And we know that consent will be vitiated by either undue influence or by duress. Undue influence is when you do anything that seeks to reg. When I say reg in terms of, and then the duress is when you use force. You understand? Then consent is vitiated. Now, clearly, see the NPP, when you hear them speak, Nkuyi is but will win by strategy. Nkuyi, but will win by strategy. And so, in that strategy, so they appoint the people into the, what's it called, EC. Because there's a situation where the EC, in fact, she's working from a position of negative. Because already, I'm telling you already, from the last election, the figures changing to what happened when we were registering, what happened when people were transferring their votes. And this exercise, the BVD is getting lost. This exercise, see, when we say come and show us, what's it called, come and exhibit. I've heard arguments saying that because we do mistake, that's why we exhibit. No. It's like a lawyer drafting a contract. When you draft a contract, you send to your client that, listen, this is a draft review. What I tell your client is that so far as you are concerned, you've done a perfect job. It's not as if you are not allowed to make mistakes for your clients to determine the mistakes and correct you. So when you send the what's it called the
voters
register to us. So far as we are concerned, it is a perfect register. It's a perfect register. It's not, you are not allowed to make mistakes for us to spend our time to find the mistakes and start a battle with you. Because you see, when that happens, what you are doing is that you are even then confirming the huge doubts the people of Ghana have in your ability as EC to deliver an election which is perceived to be free and fair. So the president has given them a huge tax, an impossible tax. I'm telling you, an impossible tax, no regard to our democracy, no regard to the purpose of our democracy, no regard to the fidelity, to his oath to be faithful to God, no regard. The people that he's placed there to is like they are on a mission. We saw what happened in Edgeso, where an EC official, full of everybody, didn't see any problem taking breakfast money. And the reaction of the EC wasn't like serious. And then if you consider what is at stake, because you see, when in 1992, the people of Ghana decided that, listen, we need to go the constitutional democratic way, it was a recognition that the best way in which our individual liberties, our lives, our rights, granted to us by God himself, can best be protected would be to take upon ourselves this system of governance, this constitutional system of governance, so that if you act in any way which undermines or causes people not to be faithful to the system, then really you are attacking the country. You are attacking our individual liberties. And that is what they are doing. That is what Nana has done. And that's what the EC is reaffirming by her actions. That is what is happening. Listen, 2024, 7th December, they will go. They will go. I'm so sure about that. They will go, we'll sack them. But we must start thinking that would it be enough just to sack them? Shouldn't there be a day of reckoning? Shouldn't there be a day of reckoning? Shouldn't we hold people's feet to the fire? Shouldn't heads be on the chopping board? Yeah, heads must be on the chopping board. Institutional heads must also be on the chopping board. Don't say institutional heads. Then people must reconsider their usefulness. Because there's a reason why political parties are formed. And maybe the political parties depart from the reasons why they are formed, then they lose their legitimacy, their rights even to be considered. Yeah, and I'm quoting from their objectives. If you have time, you can go to the objectives and ask yourself, are they pursuing their own objectives when they were given opportunity to lead? Are they pursuing their own objectives? Listen, this will not be a discussion for a final debate, also to sound to all people who claim they believe in the principles of liberal democracy. All the people who, because of the MPP's commitment to the protection of environmental integrity, that right now, that home, we all believe that we had a home there. Those of us who believe in liberal democracy and who love the environment, we believe we had a home in the MPP. And that home has been taken over by familiar spirits. If you stay there, that familiar spirit will permeate you and make you useless. You understand? You'll be useful to our country. Leave that home. Fortunately, a new home has been created for you. A new home. A new home with a good spirit. Movement for change. Leave that spirit. Leave that spirit. Because if you don't live there, one day Ghanaians will come after you. I'm telling you, the way things are going. One day Ghanaians will come after you. Maybe even be now. But the way things are going, the way the charlatans, people who don't believe in these ideals, have taken over that home and have brought in evil spirit. See, when I say familiar spirit, I'm too nice. Evil spirit. One day, maybe it won't be 2024. I don't know. It could be 2024. It could be 2025. It could be 2028. It may be at a time when we may not even be around. But certainly a day will come when Ghanaians will come after you. Leave that home. Leave the evil spirit for them. And thank God that we've created a home for you. Come to the movement for change. Let us continue to hold the flame of liberal democracy and how the ideals of liberal democracy can be used to push this Ghana agenda. You understand? Leave that home and come and let us forge that one Ghana where when we see each other, beyond the fact that we see each other and we see each other as Ghanaians, who probably have different views as to how the country ought to be developed, not as enemies. Because you see, when the movement, when we run an Anchamanti, we certainly, all of us will come together, we'll bring everybody together. But you see, when you are in NDC, because we share certain views, I should be able to, I'm finished, in fact, I'm done, I should be able to respect your view. And I said that I may disagree with you, but for the sake of Ghana, we need to test our views by debating. You understand? Not to disrespect people because of their political views. And that's what, when the evil spirit took over, they stopped respecting other views. Let us in 2024 sack them and forge that new Ghana which will have a place for different views, different tribes, different opinions, but all those views, all those tribes have just one singular agenda, and that agenda is building that great Ghana for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I'll go to Dr. Percy next, but before I do that, a few comments. This is things around us on YouTube. Some of the names on YouTube are very interesting. It says young and old people are dying as a result of working in the Galamsey site with dangerous chemicals. There's user, that's the handle. Do we care about family and friends and loved ones who died as a result of the direct or indirect exposure and impact of Galamsey activities? AP says this is sad and okay. There's an question who says the new license should be revoked immediately to save us from extinction. She again continues, intensive education of the dangers of the destruction of our water bodies as a result of illegal mining should be seriously considered. Things around us, and again, says the communities know the effects, they live with it, and they're just helpless because they can't make any food for themselves. Rocky says, watching from New York City, the MPP had already started the implementation of the 24-hour economy and still criticizing it. The sea can only be this brown unless those Galamsey machines are working 24/7. Black Note Media says the talk is too much. We need a demonstration. The whole country should wake up. Akufo-Addo's level of thinking is not like us. He has, the rest. Thank you very much. And then there's Niem Thompson, who responds to Yajua, says whenever there is war, men die the most. Dr. Percy.
You are inviting us to talk about the EC.
And we have only 10 minutes.
Well, the EC and let's start from the 2018 and the installation of the new electoral commissioner. From that point onwards, by all the yardsticks you can bring up, the EC was converted into an extension of the MPP. With the sole purpose of entrenching President Akufo-Addo and the MPP in power. In point of fact, it has always been a primary objective of the MPP to entrench itself in power, to make it impossible for it to be removed through the popular will. In the period 2001 to 2008 under President Kufuor, they tried to take over the procurement functions of the Electoral Commission. When that was rebuffed, they brought up some allegations about the EC chair's involvement in some illegal forex, something illegal to do with foreign exchange. And with that hanging over his head, they went ahead to steal the 2004 elections. At that time, my friends in the NDC were dazed from their loss in 2000. And they also had, at the head of their party, people who had sworn that so long as they were in charge, Professor Mills would never become president. Okay. Now, that 2004 election that was stolen, there was a lot of preparation that went into it, including preparations of newspaper headlines and articles, okay, by the gentleman who now chairs the Media Commission. Okay. People in the NDC saw what was going on, basically with the transmission of the results, the transposition of, I think there are two constituencies where that came in, Peru and Sena. Then there was this mole in the NDC headquarters who called the MPP and told them that, hey, you guys, they've discovered your agenda, which was what prompted Jacob Echebelamte to announce the results of our election on GBC. Presented the Electoral Commissioner with a fait accompli. We know that those matters went to court. The court ruled that the quote-unquote exhibits should be preserved, but they were destroyed. And the rest, as they say, is history. All this had been preceded by that statement that J.H. Mensah made. I think he was addressing a rally where he said that by the time they are finished, the opposition would cease to exist, or worse to that effect. Then you have MPP coming under Nanado. He didn't go about it in a roundabout way. He went directly for the jugular. He replaces the EC chair who had declared him winner and installs someone who was willing to work and to convert the commission to an extension. In their own words, they will not hold a stick and let a dog bite them. And they've spoken to it severally. They've spoken about the million ways that they have. Okay. Now, there's an important part of our history that many people are not aware of. Following the serial defeats in 51, in 54, and in 56. Today's MPP, going back to its ancestors, developed various ways and means of, as they say, leveling the electoral, what's the word they use? Leveling the electoral pitch. But one of the tried and tested means that they had was multiple registration. So you register as many times as you can, and even when you are absent, physically absent, it provides room for various manipulations. Fast forward into the Fourth Republic. A certain gentleman comes into town. He has spent all his time in the UK. He doesn't know about this history of the party. But he says, oh, you know what? We need biometric register. That would make it impossible. Because by then, and that's what one of the things that the MPP is very good at, projecting onto its opponents what itself does. So by then, the belief was widespread that, oh, the NDC won up to that point because of multiple voting in their strongholds. So a biometric register would even the play field. Initially, my friends in the NDC were opposed to this. Then someone stepped on their toes and told them that, hey, this might work in your interest. So they agreed. So one of the best elections I had was with the biometric, when the biometric register came into effect.
I think it was for the 2012 elections, I think so.
Yes, okay. But subsequently, they went back to their history and realized that no, following this wise young man who didn't know about our history, we have thrown away a big advantage. So under Jean Mensa and the new EC, there has been a relentless drive, first of all, to abandon consensus as a basis for electoral management and decision making.
Okay.
And also the introduction of opacity. So they've insisted regional coalition. That makes it possible for padding. Now if we are to do a forensic analysis of the 2020 elections, you find out a significant difference, a large difference between those who voted for MPP parliamentary candidates and those who voted for the president. That cannot be explained by any logic. I mean, most people would vote. I mean, when you go in there, you're given
With the parliamentary and presidential ballots.
yes.
And please land for me.
Yes. But I'm saying that this business of introducing opacity and playing games with the register is going to be at the heart of 2024 elections. I'm certain that many persons will go to polling stations and not find their names. It will not be that their names are in, let's say, polling station A instead of B, but they may be in another region, another constituency. And you go around in search. After a few tries, what will you do?
Give up.
You give up and you go home. So I'm not so sanguine about this prospect of throwing the criminals out, as my brother is. But we live to see. It will be a serious indictment on the intelligence of Ghanaians if they retain these criminals in power. But they are determined. They have the EC, they have the courts, they believe they have the security establishment, they have the media. Even if some of them these days try to be for their own credibility, bring up critical matters, but it's the same old game. I'm not so sanguine about the elections that we're about to have, but we live to see.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And let's conclude with Dr. Albin.
All right, thank you very much. With your permission, before I go on to the Electoral Commission's issues, may I quickly say two things about the forest, the LI 2462. I think the former President John Mahama has made it very, very, very clear that as soon as he comes to power, he will abolish that LI. So that Ghanaians must stay confident that the issue of mining in the forest is very central to the plans of the president, President John Mahama. Again, under the Blue Water Program, the water bodies, in fact, the laws on water bodies, mining on the water body will be strictly enforced to the extent that it will be regularly patrolled. If it means regular flowing of aircraft, military aircraft on the water bodies, that will be done. So that at least for a year or two, there will be the natural settlement of sediment. And then if there's any scientific, and we are still exploring the scientific opportunities for us to clean the water body. So that effort is also at the heart of the president, just to reassure Ghanaians on this. But with the EC, I just want to ask a couple of questions. One, what does forensic audit hurt? How does forensic audit hurt the EC? How does it hurt the EC? How does it make it, any worse? Because the reason for your being there as a fair and just arbiter would be enhanced when there is more transparency. So what is the reasoning? What is the reasoning behind his decision not to accept the call for a forensic audit? Maybe the EC should explain, should give us more reasons why they should. I mean, we know that, and by our constitution, the EC is supposed to be the go-between in elections. They are supposed to be the neutral ones, and we have had EC bosses. We have had Dr. Farijan. We know people, they vote. They have the right to vote. But we don't know where they vote towards. So we have had the confidence in the past ECs. Why is it that now everybody is suspicious of this EC? I think I wonder whether they realize how the public views them in that very highly suspicious light. And of course, it may not be very difficult to find. If you appoint people who are openly associated with the existing party and who actually talk publicly that they are they are against the other parties, then obviously you don't represent a neutral arbiter in this context. But they should know that they are there because of the people, and the people have the right to choose those who lead them. It is not for any institution to choose for the people who lead them. And I think it's important that Ghanaians would push. I mean, I know Doc has some concerns about the feeling that it's a done deal. Somehow I share part of the concern, but that concern can change if all of us as Ghanaians, wanting our own destinies to be shaped by ourselves, decide that the EC should not be or anybody, not even the president, should not be the reason why our destinies will not be shaped by ourselves. And I think we need to do that. We know that in elections everywhere, sometimes the government in power use other subtle means to gain some advantage. I think two of them, you have this gerrymandering, people just carving out constituencies to suit government, and some of them have been done already. And then, of course, what the Americans call pork barreling, where they use budgets and other largesse to convince people. That is something that you can't even touch, because you can't. It's like tax avoidance. But to openly and defiantly make it so incredible, make it so unbelievable, make it so that you cannot actually believe in the quality and the outcome of the election. It's quite difficult. It will be an indictment on a nation that prides itself of leading and consolidating democracy in Africa. So I think all of us as a nation, we shouldn't leave it to a group of people who work in an institution that has been set up by our laws, by our constitution. It is incumbent on Ghanaians to demand, and by whatever means, that the elections, the coming elections, is done in the best possible way, is transparent as possible, it is fair as possible. And if we don't get that, and we don't even have to wait for us not to get that, we must insist on that before we go to the ballot box. Ballot box is not the, that particular activity, that particular event is not the real composite of the will of the people. Usually many other things come in, and that we need as a collective, as a people, to come out to reject some of the things that are coming. I'm sure the demand for the forensic audit, for which UNDP has agreed to support, doesn't hurt. It actually enhances transparency. Because obviously the integrity of an election is actually determined by how transparent it is, how air is blown on it. But if this opaqueness is sustained, as was done in the past under this particular government, then we have a duty as a people to try and question it now, to try and fight it now, just to ensure that the right decisions are taken and the outcome of the election would actually reflect the will of the people. I mean, we are not saying that the election must by all means be won by one party, but the elections must be won to be a reflection of the people. Sometimes you hear your own friends, the MPP friends, who say, well, for the elections, we know you will win if we do that transparently. But they say in a can, we will still in. They are not ashamed of saying this. Aren't they ashamed when they feel that we are not serving the people well, but we will use other means? We have thousands of ways of winning elections, and we are going to deploy that. Aren't they ashamed of saying this? And are Ghanaians going to sit down for that to materialize just because we are afraid, just because we have our balls between our thighs? Is that what they say? Our tails between our tires. We need to speak truth to power, speak truth to the EC, and let them know that they have no responsibility to determine who leads the country. It is the people ourselves who should choose who we want to lead our country, and we shouldn't sit down. I mean, that would be my real call. That for what we are picking, for the simple request that let it be transparent, let everybody know how come, and our history doesn't support this, that just before elections you do voter exhibition, and the parties that are supposed to participate in the election don't have the list. They have it hours just before the exhibition. It hasn't happened before. It hasn't happened. Why are we tolerating this? I think we are too tolerant, because when these things happen and we don't do anything, they get the muscle to go ahead and do worse things. So that would be my call. That would be my call. Let all of us, I think one, the EC must know that it is in their interest. It is their credibility interest to get this forensic thing done. And then the people must also demand for the right thing to be done. We deserve better than being having leadership being enforced on us.
Doc, thank you. Thank you very much. Just a few comments, then we'll bring this to a close. This is Prince Henrico Foyidu, who says the MPP government has made Galamsey one of their social intervention. What has happened to I have put my presidency on the fight against Galamsey by Nana Akufo-Addo? I can't blame anyone but Nana Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia, because they have given the power to act on our behalf, and in this case, that has failed woefully. Nana Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia can't find corruption because they are benefiting and involved directly. No wonder we are told party here, Sika, the future is pregnant. Thank you very much for that comment. This is from Kojo Chumbwa for Sena, the partisan political EC, starring the who is who in MPP political apparatchiks, have no interest in fairness and being impartial. If a body like the EC that is grounded in fairness has on it TESCOM patrons, MPP serial callers, and the chair herself being a generational MPP member, then they should take their own arbitration into this fight to reset our country. Expect the West from the MPP EC. That's coming from Kojo Chumbuafo. And then let me read this one from the UK. Masa Musa says, as we speak, we have TV and radio talk show hosts asking the same questions. They've been asking for the past 5 to 6 years and getting the same answers. We are being told politicians are involved. Which ones? The chiefs are involved. Who are those chiefs? You and I, none the wiser. And because we can't find those criminals, some are saying we should all take collective blame. This I can agree. Now you'll appreciate, he said, now you'll appreciate Tuni Jonas and Kevin Taylor when they speak. Hopefully after 7 December 2024, the talking will stop and action will start. Masa Musa, I have that belief. So he has a lot of faith in what will happen after 7th December. A lot of you have been asking about Kwame Kwesi Pratt Jr. He did. That's all I can say. He issued a statement over the week. In fact, yesterday, the statement he issued. And he says, my attention has been drawn to a report circulating on the internet stating that I have predicted victory for Vice President Bawumia in the upcoming presidential elections. According to the report, this prediction was made on the morning show of Pan-African Television on 5th September 2024. The report is false. I am traveling and have not participated in discussions on Pan-African TV or any other Ghanaian media platform for roughly a month. To be clear, I have never predicted Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's victory in the 2024 election. The fact on the ground points to a completely different outcome. Further, for the avoidance of doubt, I have never called on Ghanaians to vote for or support Dr. Bawumia's campaign in any way whatsoever. Clearly, this falsehood is the work of desperate and unscrupulous forces in the Bawumia campaign machine living in a fool's paradise. My message to these forces is show some respect for the electorate. The 2024 elections cannot be won by such deceitful and scandalous gimmicks. That's coming from Kwame Kwesi Pratt Jr. So he's indicated. If you ever see anything circulating that is endorsed by Bawumia, he has not done that. Well, there's also, before I came on the show, I kept getting calls from the NDC in Ablekuma West. They said they are doing a fundraising dinner today for their campaign. They said they're doing it at the legendary event center at Dansoman. So you can be part of this. The NDC in Ablekuma West doing a fundraising dinner at the legendary event center. They'll start at 5 p.m. sharp. Well, that's our show for today. And once a big thank you for joining us. Let me say a big thank you to our panel for today. Starting from my right, lawyer Apia Dankwa is a member of the Movement for Change Alliance for Revolutionary Change. And of course, a big thank you to Dr. Tony Obing, for joining us. He's a spokesperson for the NDC, a manifesto spokesperson on mining. And of course, Ajua Ejapon Ma Anson is a communication team member of the National Democratic Congress. And Dr. David Percy is a student of history and politics. Well, I am Sena Nombo. For my crew, producers led by Tijani Badamasi, Rabina Frimpong, and of course the CEO of Abindadi, Latifa Adam, Gerard, who is the director. A big thank you to Sewa, who started this off nicely for us. We say a big thank you to you for making time, and a big thank you to affiliate stations across the country who pick this show live. We are back same time next week with another edition of the show. We really appreciate your company. We wish you a fruitful week. We'll see you next week.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people.
China Now is a show dedicated to providing the world with an overview of today's China. Here, you will learn about how China works, how China thinks, and how China views itself and the rest of the world. Let China not be far away from you anymore. Join us every Saturday at 8 a.m.
Production duane Ruta mixture ya yedi kutia atiri Ruta tonic and the Ruta life wa ehuru efin ni srade bone efin nipadua mu na san support immune system no Ruta de obi ase FDA age dwede nkrato ya to
It's also a little bit of a cliche. I mean, we're all used to the James Bond scene, as it were, with all the ambassadors sipping champagne and seeming to do nothing else but dine and sip champagne at receptions. That
Citizen TV, the citizen's power.